It's not like competition, cause there's only one of you and there's only one of I. Watch me shine. I come into the room like a diamond, but I can't take credit for it, cause I am the poem. But God.
Welcome everyone to the Tahirah Taalib show. Today is a special topic. The topic today is Truth Be Told. And I have two special guests in the studio today. I have Taj Tarik Bey. He is a writer, an author, and a poet. He's the founder of the Moorish Round Table, and he's also a Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Divine and the National Movement of the World. And I also have Sabir Bey. As you all know, he's been on the show before, and Sabir Bey, he has his own radio show. He has his own television talk show also. And he brings the information to the people around law and civics and so on and so forth. So what I'd like to do is welcome you all on to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Sabir. I'm just going to jump right into it. Before we get started, I just want to give an understanding of what is the Moorish Order Roundtable. What is it?
Moorish Order Roundtable, I founded that officially in around 77 and officially established it in 82 for the purpose of disseminating information that was both controversial at the time and that many people would not touch on because of the delicate nature of it being that much of it has to do with information that's generally held secret by many people who live off of our people, and that is on both sides, both Europeans and Asiatics.
And who's considered to be Asiatics? That's the name that's
anyone. There's two people on the planet, Occidentals and Asiatics, or Asiatics Orientals. That means original people, then hybrid people, which are Occidental or European. Everyone else is a blend of the two. It's very simple. Okay. And then the whole planet area was called Asia at one time.
Okay. All right. And the whole planet was called Asia. And can you just give a brief, like, can you break that down? Like, what do you mean?
All right, fundamental geography. The landmass was called Asia. Of course, it's separated. We got separated continents. Great earthquake about 70,000 years ago, which separated ancient Mexim, which you call Africa in modern times, and which you call also Tahirah today, which they call Africa now, and then North, Central, and South America, which is ancient Mexim, ancient South, North, Central, and Southwest Africa, which is called now Al-Marak or Al-America today. Okay. Actually, the culture is on both sides.
All right. Now, I know you mentioned, and I've also read in a book a woman by the name called Rebecca, and it talks about like Northwest Africa, meaning the North America is actually Northwest Africa.
Yes.
So where is that coming from? Because the average person's like, I thought Africa is over there, not here.
That's called disassociation. After the Inquisition powers took place in North America, mainly the Spanish Inquisition and also the Pontifex of 1492 and Inter Caetera Divina 1493, and the dictums from the lords and the popes of Rome, whereas books of the ancient world were burnt on a massive scale so that they create the state of mind that our people are in right now, which is really a reproduction of the Dark Ages.
True. So you mean like books of the truth?
You got that right. In other words, the perspective that people have often today is that literature and books that they're getting are based in foundational primal literature. Some of the nuances, some of the information is, however, the real power of the history and law and biology and anthropology is preserved in rare book libraries that the masses are definitely not availed. Therefore, such persons that are availed these books are really what you call high-level professors, industrialists, and people in government, preserved in different orders that they maintain as secret, essentially different levels of masonry, which is really the history of the planet, history of true religion, the history of anthropology, sociology, the science that runs the planet, real true spirituality, truth of deity, from which the name deity comes from, and all the sciences that create the philosophies that they call for the masses religion, which the masses are really getting mind control in the name of religion. Of course, you can understand that's controversial.
Right. And can I go along with like the books being burned? And
yes.
Okay.
I mean, but the books, like Todd said, these books are rare, but they're there, but we're not visiting these libraries, what we should be doing. We should be educating, our people to visit libraries. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because a lot of our people don't even read. We don't read.
Right.
We have to start teaching our people on how to read, and when we read it, do we understand what we're reading?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just want to just give like a general background on the Moors and who Moors are, and is it only Moors can be like quote unquote African Americans, or can someone actually of a Mexican descent be Moors? Like who are the Moors and where do they derive from?
Yes, Moors is actually short for Moroccan. Moroccans are direct descendants of the ancient Moabites who occupied northwest, central, southwest Africa, you call today Tamari, of course the Great Atlantis, North, Central, South America, including Mexico. Don't get it confused. Many of the pyramids and the philosophy, culture that is embedded in what they call ancient American Indians, and believe me, this is not India, and we're not Indians, although they called us that, is all rooted in the same philosophy. You have pyramids, like for instance, the pyramids of the sun, and then you have the experimental, or what you call the scientific complexes in the Yucatan that are older than the pyramids of Giza in Misraim that they call Egypt today. They are not variable cultures, they are really versions of the same culture. One of the problems that we have as a people, due to Inquisition miseducation, is that we look at history and we look at our own selves with a tunnel vision, only pinpointing ourselves in what we call today Egypt, which is also a modern name, and that's not the name of the land, and it's not Kemet, it's Kamat, all right? And that culture is even modern to the real history. It even goes back to Nubia, Samaria, and even before there. See, so our concepts of how we look at ourselves, and to the Yucatan. So when we look at what we call African history, our people's eyes only go across the Atlantis. But the world scientists' eyes go to Central America, that you call the Yucatan, and North America, which they call in secret societies the North Gate. Okay. All right, so our concepts of how we view ourselves are absolutely corrupted. When we're thinking what we call African history or African culture, and we only look at the continent there, our concepts are wrong. We should be looking at the planet only. Now, when you're talking about Moors are short. We are the descendants of the ancient ones, direct, and we've been called by many names. Now, what is important to recognize with us is that as we fell under the Roman yoke, we fell as Moors, legally. That's the last legal name of the people called Moors. Now, some of the brands that are used, or misnomers that are used, are Negro, Black, Indian, West Indian, Latino, colored folks, Coon, Shine, whatever we call ourselves this week. All of those are Moors. Anyone in the Western Hemisphere that are aboriginal or indigenous to the land are of Moorish descent. Okay. Quickly, as an example, because I don't want to hold up too much on that answer, we went to a show at the International House in Philadelphia a couple years ago, and they had Mexicans going in there with children, and they were going through some of the rituals with the quadrigestimos, actually the four corners ritual, etc., and they were bringing the culture back to the front, and the children were taping it from a school in Philadelphia for history. And they literally brought out old pictures and literally told the people in the audience that they're descendants of the Moors, literally, right on out.
So they know.
Everybody knows but us. We're the only ones out to lunch, trying to be who we are not, which gives this corporate entity faking as government jurisdiction. That's where our problem is, politically.
And can you touch on that politically, as far as like the government knowing the secret with the secret societies? They know this, but the quote unquote African Americans or Black, we don't know exactly like who we are. I wanted to touch on the classifications of status, because I know that we'll go into a little bit more. Can we touch on what are the four classifications of status?
Four classifications of citizenship.
Okay.
First is national. Second is citizen. Now, all this is citizen, you must understand. Third is subject. Fourth is alien. Now, any persons in any of any nationality or of any nation at any particular time over periods of hundreds of years may be what you call jurisdictionally or in physical form and politically operating in another government, which means you can go to China and you can probably find anybody from all the nations of the planet at any one time. Likewise here, likewise anywhere else. Now, when you're dealing with the absolute indigenous sovereign people of that particular land, that would be Chinese. If you were in China and you had children in China, they would still be Moors. They wouldn't be Chinese, although Chinese, we still have bloodline. We still have a blood tie, if you understand what I'm saying. Now, if one doesn't understand the classification of citizenship, one has a tendency to operate not only in different jurisdictions, but even with within their own community, not understanding their legal status. And status is the first issue at law in sociology, in anthropology, meaning that when you're dealing with other people, when you're interchanging, your legal status is important because that determines your capacities and your incapacities of operations of dealing with rights, resources, legal matters, etc. in society. Any society, universal. So the first issue is status. Then you're dealing with the jurisdiction / venue of an issue. Then you deal with adjudication or decisions or claims made, etc., concerning any matters, whether it's matters of controversy, matters of resources, etc., the capacity of someone to say that they have authority or not authority over you. So these things are convoluted with us because we're not taught civics.
Right. So is that that's one of the reasons why, like, our people are like basically on the bottom of the totem pole?
Exactly. They don't know the rules of the game.
Okay.
I mean, we're as chattel, movable chattel, as opposed to being national people of the land. Therefore, resources are not in our control. Economics are not that we don't handle these things, but we do it in a service or what you would call a job position, but never in what you call true authoritative position. And most who are signed that way are usually tokens.
Okay.
Prime example. Remember when he was trying to get an apartment when he first came out? He was trying, and they told him he couldn't get it because he was the status that he was in. When you're dealing with your status, there's principles and morals that come along with it. So what happens if he was coming in claiming to be African American or black? We don't know what he's about, so we don't want to watch him. Now, take for instance, we watched the movie Scarface. Italians have principles; they have morals. When Al Pacino was getting ready to bomb the guy remember that scene? And he was in a car and he said, "You think I'm an animal?" And he shot the Cuban dude. The Cuban dude didn't have principles and morals. We don't have principles and morals. When you're dealing with your status and your nationality, we have principles. What is the 5 principles we stand on? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So Italians have that same thing. Chinese have the same thing. But where's the black people's?
So we don't have it because
that's expected from you.
Exactly. You know, so it's same thing. Incident happened in Philadelphia with the swimming pool issue. They was calling, they got upset because the guy didn't want them in the swimming pool. That's their community. They built it. And when something came up, and one of the European student swimming people came in and said, "Why is blacks in the swimming pool?" Now that's a big issue right now. Because we don't know what they're about. They can come in and tear things up. But if you have principles and morals with you, you're going to come in with those things.
And people will already expect that. So basically, when someone has been under the title black or colored or Negro, they're kind of like in the dark in a sense. Meaning people don't know who they are or what you're about.
That's why Taj says status, the status issue. When you go in, okay, what is his principles? Where's his flag at? Where's his constitution? Where his laws at? All these things play a part. So when you come in.
So black is not a nationality?
No, it's not.
Of course, it's a brand.
No. You can't find that in the dictionary as a nationality.
Okay.
Example.
We're in school right now, y'all. We are in school.
So we have an ordinary dictionary, right?
Okay.
Now, this is available to children as well as adults, right? But as Brother Sabir said, we have a tendency not to read.
Right.
All right, so let's look at black in the dictionary.
You can look up Englishman.
Yes.
And Frenchman and Dutchman. All that's nationality.
Yes. Now, as we can see, black here, it's an adjective, right?
Yep, it's an adjective.
All right. Now we can go into, it also refers to Negro, etc., right?
Yes.
Now that has meanings, all of which is what? Involved or enveloped in darkness, black night, gloomy, dismal, sullen, boding ill, forbidding, absent, without any moral light or goodness, which he was talking about.
Right.
Now, when we take that brand, that's what we've told the world, that we have no moral light or goodness. We're sullen. It's a total negative. It's a prayer in one word. It's an adjective.
And also, we talked about like the words and how we cast spells on ourselves.
Exactly. That's a spell. Now, as, pardon me. Now look, continue. And you go down here, and then it gives you a compound word. What's that compound word?
Black or more.
Now, what is that?
It's a noun.
Now they break it down. It's a compound word, right?
Yes.
What's that?
A Negro.
Any?
Dark-skinned person.
What? A variation of?
Variation of black, more.
Which one is capitalized, black or more?
More is capitalized.
What small case? The adjective.
Black.
Now it's separated. And who are those people that think that they're black?
Moors.
Is that complex?
No.
Not hard at all.
Can a child read that?
Yes.
Is it in the dictionary?
Yes.
What's the debate?
There is
Except
no-
that they don't read.
Right.
And the world knows who they are. Now, you understand what masonry is?
Yes, it's basically a secret of what the truth of
It's
what
an
people-
open secret.
Open secret.
That's why people who come from around the world has limited respect of us.
Yep.
Because we talk a lot of trash, we know gods, and we take the position nobody else does, and we're arrogant with our ignorance, and they can't tell us anything. Because we think we know what's up when we don't even know ourselves. So you can understand it makes it kind of difficult for civilized people to talk to us, because we always get emotional, want to march, pray, burn their stuff down if they say things that we're not comfortable with.
But you have leaders who know this,
Oh.
especially within the community, but they don't speak about it. Like, how can you know the truth?
If I'm an overseer, is it in my interest to free the sheep?
Not at all.
If I got a 501c3 tax exempt status to maintain status quo, is it in my interest to tell the people the truth?
No.
If I'm running them behind civil rights when I know they were struck down by the Supreme Courts in the 1800s as unconstitutional, am I going to sit? Am I going to sit and tell them that the civil rights absence is civil liter mortuus, and that's their status, so they can figure to get into a full life status, which is the opposite? Am I going to explain to them the form they're on? Because if I did, they'd be free of me.
So basically, you're saying those leaders in that character.
I'm not talking about anyone. I'm talking about principles. If the shoe fits,
Where?
Cinderella's on.
So for those who are wearing it, they are aware of this information and they are continuously misleading.
Oh,
I would say some are and some are not.
Okay.
Because I give respect to a lot of brothers and sisters out there that's been in the struggle, no matter what the organization, because the point of this information belongs to all of us. It's not ours, if you understand what I'm saying. Just like if I showed you in the book that we're Moors.
Yes.
Is that limited to us who are conscious? No.
It's for everyone who opens
So you
it
got
up.
conscious Moors and unconscious Moors. Now, an unconscious Moor doesn't recognize they're Moor, but doesn't mean the rest of the world don't recognize it. It's just that we got issues.
Right.
You may be talking about the political ones.
Yes.
When we say that, we're not talking about the leaders like Ivan Van Sertima or Sheikh Ata Diop or somebody like that who may not know, but those that's in the political form know, and we're not going to say no names because that's going to give them earplay.
And we're not really.
So we're not even. They know, like you said, the shoe fits where.
It's sort of like,
know.
people often take an offensive to the truth. Don't get mad at the messenger because we're not really attacking anyone. We're just bringing the truth to the people.
Right.
Now, whether or not they can handle it, that's a totally different issue.
Okay.
But as I showed you in the book, right? So why don't they argue with the world? Why they mad at us? Because we're exposing this. These are pictures in Washington, D.C. in George Washington's Masonic Lodge. Right? And people from around the world come and see this. And all on the corner debating.
Okay.
What do you see on their crowns, on their fez? Notice that these are all Europeans. What's on the crown of his fez?
Was on the crown of his
Yeah,
fez,
read it.
We have, I can't get the top, but I know it has Islam.
Now, what's on the top of his fez?
The top of his fez is, what is it?
Muslim.
Muslim.
What's the name of the land?
Morocco.
What are these two titles? El and Bey.
El Bey. And
then they act like they don't know what is up?
Right.
Well, that's the truth of the secrecy of masonry.
Right. This is it. Ooh, wee.
It's open, isn't it?
And this is what I need to break down, because ill and big? Like what?
Those are noble titles of the true nobles of the land, i.e. the sovereigns who have been unseated due to the Inquisition, or what they call the Spanish Inquisition, which is really the Inquisition of the Moors.
And can you break down just briefly about the Spanish Inquisition?
There are three major Inquisitions coming from Rome. One is the Roman Inquisition, the medieval Inquisition, and then the Spanish Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition is the monster by which the world was turned upside down. Now let's get specific, because it's a broad area in there, dealing with the pontifex of 1492, when the Moorish Empire, the stronghold of the Moorish Empire fell, as you might say. And this is the war that was waged against the Moors by Ferdinand and Isabella. Mm-hmm. And the last stronghold in Andalus, that people call Spain now today. And Yata, where Moors ruled in Europe, because that actually is Moorish land that was assented to Europeans later from the Druids. So you got to understand, you got a long history even there. Right. So in order to understand African history, if you don't understand world history, you've been cheated. Mm-hmm. If you take your mind and just say African history and keep looking to the continent of Tamari, right, that they call Africa today, then you are in tunnel vision and you're subject to European miseducation, yep, because your history is on the planet. Okay. And this must be also understood. With that overthrow, this is why they successively began to do the book burnings, because in order to conquer a people, you must kill their culture. Right. And this is the other reason why, for instance, like when you go into world history, you will look at the politics of the world written by all scholars in categories of the Christian world, political, the Muslim world, political. The people here think they're worship systems, but they're political systems.
How was that so, like, because that's something that I just come across, like Christianity and Islam is a political status. How is that from what we know?
Let me give you an example.
That's spiritual religious. That's
how you were taught. Mm-hmm. Not what you know, okay, what you've been exposed to. As an example, this is lesson book 14A, this work I did years ago. But it's dealing with certificate AA222141 is civic Moorish civic relationships, relations. But I want to give you a point of law here to give you the character in which those things are addressed. Now it's from the Codes of Law of the United States of America of a general and permanent character. But I want you to read this part dealing with foreign relations and intercourse. And just read that and then get it. These are law cases. You don't have to go into the law. Okay. Just deal in this concept. This is the concept of our interchange.
All right. So we have Title 22, Foreign Relations and Intercourse, Chapter 2.
Yes. Consular Court.
Consular Court, Section 141.
Judicial Authority.
Judicial Authority generally.
Yes.
To carry into full effect the provisions of the treaties of the United States with concern with certain foreign countries, the ministers and consuls of the United States in China, Siam, Turkey, Morocco, Muscat, Abyssinian, Persia, and the territories formerly a part of the former Ottoman.
So, former part of Ottoman Empire, including Egypt. So this is Morocco, which you see on the crown of his head, mm-hmm, which is the territories formerly a part of the former Ottoman Empire, including Egypt. So when you hear them sing the song from the halls of Montezuma, mm-hmm, to the shores of Tripoli, they're giving you a general synopsis of the conquered empire of the former Ottoman or Moroccan Empire, which is you who have been unseated. Now continue to read.
In addition to other powers and duties imposed upon them, respectively by the provisions of such treaties, respectively by invested with jurisdictional authority described in this chapter, which shall help me out here,
where you at?
Which shall appertain to the office of minister and consul,
to be a part of the duties belonging thereto, wherein and so far as the same is allowed by treaty and in accordance with the usages, right?
Right, we have 2 minutes, so we got to wrap this up. How can
the countries in their intercourse with the Franks or other foreign Christian nations. See the concept?
So
is that a religion? It's politics.
Politics.
So, wow. So what you're saying here is basically Christian is Christian.
It's a political system. We who have been subjugated by it take it as a religious order because we were conquered by the popes of Rome to submit to them.
Whoa. So again, so you're basically saying Christianity is not a religion. Is not
What you perceive it to be.
Exactly. That's what I said earlier. That's what I was saying earlier.
If anyone, I know people are going to have questions. If you have questions, you're going to have to email me at tahirah@AOL, because I know people are going to be fired up about this.
Oh yeah, it's controversial, isn't it?
It's real. We have 2 minutes left of this segment. Where do I jump from here?
Wherever you feel like.
I want to go quickly, and we're going to come back to the Constitution. Let's go into the Constitution. What is the Constitution? Who established the Constitution, and is it being upheld today? So there you can give that.
I can join in on this too, because it is, from my standpoint, the Constitution period is a contract between the indigenous people and the Europeans. But we really have to study the Constitution. You know, it's, how can I sum it up in 2 minutes? But you have to really study, because I'm still going through it now.
Gotcha.
And I've been studying it for last 12 years and still finding things in there that we have to really dig out in there. And they're not really utilizing the Constitution to this day. They're not using that Constitution.
Now let's go straight to it since a short period. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution says guarantees a Republican form of government for every state in the Union. Now the politicians talk about democracy, don't they? They just fired themselves. They're traitors.
What we're gonna have to do, we're gonna roll this into the second half. My goodness, this is what it is. Don't take our word for it. You have to research. My goodness, this is what it is right now. The title of the show is Truth Be Told. We'll be back on the second half. We'll be back.
My sister so fly, so fly, so fly. My sister so fly, so fly. My sister so fly, so fly, so fly. My sister so fly, so fly. My sister so fly, it's like seeing her so fly. It's not like competition, cause there's only one of you. When there's only one of I, watch me shine. I come into the room like a diamond.
Welcome back. This is part 2 of Truth Be Told. We're going to kind of switch gears a little bit, and we're going to touch on who Muhammad ibn Abdullah is, because this is a name that is known within the Moorish circle and probably beyond. But again, I'm still new to this, so I'm learning, and certain things are coming back to me. So we want to touch on who Muhammad ibn Abdullah is, and who is Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Taj or Sabir?
Abdullah ibn Abdullah was a sultan of Morocco during the 1700s. All right, and you must understand, Morocco is an empire. And an empire, many people who really don't know keep assuming the kingdom, which is the territory in north near Misraim, near Egypt, that was liberated and given partial independence in 1956. And they think that's the only Morocco. That's a tributary, all right? That's a kingdom subordinate to the empire. The heart of the empire is that the Romans conquered, which is North America, all right? Here's a letter from George Washington to him in the Book of the Treaty, right there. And then you can see the concepts that the people have. Now you got to pay attention to the date, right? Now I'll read it. A letter from George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco, where? City of New York, December the 1st, 1789. Great and magnanimous friend, since the date of the letter which the late Congress by their president, which lets you know he wasn't the first.
Say it again.
since the date of the letter which the late Congress, by their president, addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy. The time necessarily employed in the arduous task and the disarrangements occasioned by so great though peaceable a revolution will apologize and account for your Majesty's not having received those regularly advised marks of attention from the United States which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct toward them afforded reason to expect. The United States having unanimously appointed me to supreme executive authority in this nation, your Majesty's letter of August the 17th, 1788, which by reason, all right, hold on.
Okay, just, there we go, we got
all
it.
right. Pardon me.
By reason of?
By reason of the dissolution of the late government, which means the government was already here, remain unanswered, has been delivered to me. I have also received the letters which your Imperial Majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgement and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship for them.
So I want to pause real quick. So the late government, meaning that George Washington in his administration did not start the government.
It's the ninth. He's not, keep on coming down.
Okay.
Get over there, come on down.
Greatly?
We greatly regret the hostile disposition of those regencies toward this nation, who have never injured them, is not to be removed. They couldn't keep up the taxes. On terms of our power to comply with. Within our territories there are no mines whether of gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and dissolution of a long war, have not as yet had the time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce. But our soil is bountiful, and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves. Turn the page.
Now when you mean young nation,
Turn the page.
who are they?
The nation is a political order, not the land.
Oh.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Turn.
Oh, how do we work? Got it. I'm coming. So the nation is a political order.
Yep.
So the nation. So who?
In other words, we brought the Europeans into government with us. That's what masonry is.
Okay. So what,
right now,
I want to touch on, while we get this together, I want to touch on Noble Drew Ali.
Yes.
Who Noble Drew Ali? Who is he?
Noble Drew Ali is not that. This is, believe me, the information is not new. Which, as you know, when you read the case of the Sundry Free Moors, which is 1790, that come before the House of Representatives, which you read off the air. And as you can see, the issue is not new. Yet he was the first to represent the Moorish nation in proper person and make the argument to this government of their obligations to us, which many have buried in their secret societies. He brought it to the front and then brought the knowledge back, the birthright and the title names back to the Moors to make them conscious to stand up and to begin to take our place in the affairs of men. That's the first basis of the unique position that he holds in society. He came with our proper person position that gave us the legal argument that the world couldn't ignore.
So
meaning that showed that the heirs are now conscious, meaning we don't have amnesia.
All right, so he came in 1913.
Came before that, but officially he founded the movement, the activity, the organized body, the political forum for us to operate within 1913.
So and it is now 2009.
Yes, going on 2013.
So what happened? Because he came back in 1913, it's 2009, and we're like back in the dark ages.
Betrayal.
And the betrayal. Or who were those who betrayed?
We don't have to tell you that. You can find some of it in the FBI papers.
COINTELPRO.
Do you understand? As well as, now let's look at the United Nations. The nations of the earth came together to deal with these issues. In declarations for the rights of the child, the nations of the earth, including all of the Organization of American States. That means all the political states in the Americas came on our behalf, and Principle 3 declared every child shall have a right to a name and nationality from birth, right? And that information was to be presented to all the people through all your institutions, your churches, your civic organizations, all institutions. But did it happen? I don't think so,
right.
Except with the Moorish movement. Now, international rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 14, A and B. Everyone has a right to a nationality, and everyone has, they shall not be arbitrarily deprived of the right to change or correct their nationality. It was supposed to be issued through all the organizations. Did it happen? I don't think so. Declaration of the Rights and Human Rights of the Child, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, etc. right here, of indigenous people. Principle 5, everyone has a right to a nationality. Why is that not an issue with our people? It was certainly presented as an argument in law by the nations of the earth, not some organization, the nations of the earth. Why isn't it an issue with us? It's called betrayal. It's also called COINTELPRO. It's also called overseers.
Okay, going back to what we mentioned in the early half.
Now let's finish this George Washington letter.
Okay.
Flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. Pay attention to this paragraph. The encouragement with your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with what? With your dominions. Where do you think you're standing? The punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor make a deep impression on the United States and confirm their respect for and attachment to your Imperial Majesty. It gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity of assuring your Majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your Majesty of the high sense which in common with the whole nation I entertain the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your Majesty, and may the Almighty bless your Imperial Majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection, signed George Washington. So where do you think that you're attached to? The Moroccan Empire. Now you understand the great Masonic secret?
So we didn't come here on no slave ship.
Oh, you were already here. You were overthrown.
Some,
not everybody.
You were overthrown. You're the sovereign of the land. We are out to lunch. Hold on, let me show you a military document.
Okay.
This is the military document of the King Alfred plan.
King Alfred, please get into that.
Now, you also know that this has been in the hands of our people. It has the concentration camps, etc., the exotic map, etc. But I want to give you a particular part in here that I want you to pay close attention to, and notice that some people get this but conveniently skip over this part because it doesn't fit the quote-unquote struggle agenda.
Right.
Right.
Before we get into that, I want to touch on, I'll speak with my cousin Sabir Bey from Georgia.
Yes.
And we were talking about Ali, and he also mentioned like Europeans, when the Europeans came, they didn't cause division, like we were already divided before they came. And Ali was trying to move us through the hatred among one another.
It's called the ancient hatred.
Okay, can you talk about that, please? I don't want people to think this is some hate. We're against Europeans. We've already been divided before they came also.
It's about love.
Okay.
But it's also about truth.
Okay.
When you go into history, you're going to find that we did some very, very great things. And we did some very, very not great things. Now, truth is what it is, not what you want it to be. And one of the problems that we have, particularly as a people, when we go into history, Asiatic history, and African history, we have a tendency to go into the history and try to take the good that we did and come out with some kind of browbeating, proud blackness thing that they call it, of arrogant self-righteousness, as if we built these great pyramids, we're doing all this great stuff, but we do no harm and only the Europeans doing harm. Well, guess what? We were putting some of our own people in servitude.
Right.
We were violating some of our own principles, which has much to do with the divisions and why and how the Europeans also ultimately divided fed on that division and then took over.
Divide and conquer.
It's called divide and conquer. But we're not totally innocent in this thing. This is why we must not take this information and misuse it. Nor must we practice hate or things like that. It's not about hate. It's about fixing this thing and regaining our lost estate and saving our families and our babies, because we're under European occupation of Inquisition policies, and he's trying to destroy us and steal our land and our resources and trying to maintain our civil little more two status under the rule of abandonment and wardship tenures. And Nobudrali says the heir or parent is awakened now. He can take care of his own affairs, but we still trying to be black. That's what our problem is, which means that we still got amnesia.
So you're saying once we all wake up, we can just, where do we go? Where do we go to get our rights back? Where do we start?
You begin to be.
And
if you're an heiress, you're sitting in this seat. You got a crown on your head with jewels on it that's shining in these lights. You got gold disc earrings on. You've got the countenance of what some would call a queen. It's a difference between that and you actually recognizing that you own everything here and that you're standing on your own land. The mental is that you don't, that you got to rent this, pay tickets for this, or buy feudal law representation so you can travel across the land. That's what the concept is, and that's what we've been operating, paying on our own land. Different state of mind. Once you understand you actually are the heir of not this building, not just this particular area of Manhattan, that you or what you call Manhattan, the land mass of the entire empire and all resources in it that has been under the control of foreigners that you, out of ignorance, think are Americans when you're the only true American. This is where our problem is, our concept of how we view things, that we must become who we know. We keep trying to get this idea that we need to invent a new constitution, that we need to invent a new country. You're standing in your house.
Right.
You know what? One thing that we need to use is the tools that's already here.
Yes.
And I stress this a lot to people. Radio and television is how they manipulate the masses of the people. I was watching Dick Gregory one day talking about, what is being put inside the malt liquor. Europeans make the malt liquor, but we drink the malt liquor instead of questioning what's in the malt liquor. Right. So we're not questioning what's inside the water. Right. Let's talk about the lead that's inside the water. If you have lead, it messes with your mentality. So why don't we focus with the children about what they're drinking, what's inside the food? They was joking about my mud water. It's the reason why I have that in there. Right. Just like my sister just said about the food that we're eating. So a lot of this affect us. Why don't we focus on that? That's one of the remedies. Let's focus on the radio. Let's focus on TV. Let's focus on cleaning our insides up. You can say you're a queen or whatever, but if your insides is dirty, that we call it, how are you going to fix anything?
Right.
Come on.
True indeed, true indeed. I know, speaking of media, because you have your radio show and you have your talk show and you go into schools. You go into schools and you teach this information to high school students who they would never learn these things. And I also share with you, I was in school and I was teaching the children a little bit, but I do know, I had on the board, I was like, the secret society, then the government, then the people, like, and the governments are the puppets and they're feeding us the garbage. And I was sharing with you because I was excited, like, I'm learning what I learned, I'm teaching. What are some other sources of media that we can put this information out there to educate people?
I mean, we have it. My producer Mark, this brother pushed me honestly because I never thought about doing TV honestly, and really my whole focus right now is the newspaper, books, television, radio. Because this is how they control, because in doing radio, they control the public's opinion. We can talk about this all day long. But if you're not in front of one of these or on the radio, putting this out to the masses of the people, it's not going to change.
Now, you know what? I spoke with a friend of mine from Boston, and she mentioned, like, getting into the mainstream media with this information. I don't want to say it's never going to happen, but you're going to be up against a lot when putting this information out to the mainstream media. How can we get into mainstream media with this? Absolutely.
I'm just feeling this, and this is really frustrating.
Okay.
Let's deal with the medium, then the media.
Okay.
Woman gives birth to male and female. If we make sure the women understand this information, we don't have to worry about that media.
True.
Because she will teach them in the highest school known to man. It's called the womb. that's represented by the Ankh. That's ancient, which is the truth of government. So let's get real.
Okay, but this I want to add something in there, because you do have a group of people who are not who
really understand,
who are not conscious, and if we don't put something, like give them something to do, they will never know, because their circles are not aware of this.
Let's say this. Let me just present this.
Okay.
Asiatic African culture, when you go into the state of mind of our forefathers, in order to understand spirituality, in order to understand philosophy, the 7 liberal arts, the principles of science and culture that brought Europe out of the Dark Ages, which our people are rejecting because they think that's his education, not recognizing that the Moors gave it to them. That's what brought them out of the Dark Ages. They overthrew us and threw us into darkness. Now we think we're black, and we need that same education to bring us out of darkness. We keep trying to reinvent what's already there, which is what Brother Sabir was saying. But above it all, and beyond that, with the scope of how we view things, we must start doing it properly in the spirit of our forefathers, from a matrilineal and matriarchal perspective, when actually the things have been dispensed in a patriarchy of Rome, which makes us corrupt. Now, we must be aware of that in order to spiritually digest this information properly, because you cannot violate the laws of nature and not reap the recompense from her, because she doesn't recognize person or station. We're out of order.
But can I interject real quick? This is what she's basically saying. How do we we know that, but she's saying for the people who don't know, when you have people, how many people right now may be looking at this, use Crest toothpaste, use Tom's, I mean not Tom's, Crest, what's the other one? I don't use them, but Colgate, whatever. What's inside the toothpaste?
Fluoride.
What does fluoride do? It's a poison. So if we can talk this all day long, but if somebody's going home constantly brushing their teeth with this, it has an effect. And one thing that I love that Karis once said to do, and this is when I was in the school, how many times, I think I've been in 5 times in the school, he said the one way that we can stop violence is to go in and talk about, give a person opportunity and knowledge. Go in to the schools and talk about hip-hop, and then we can bring all this information in. Then they'll be sitting there and wanting to learn. When I go to the schools, they go back, I come back every month, they have a book, they bring out books, say, Sabir, guess what I found? They says this in the Moors. Because you have to give them something. They don't want to sit still long enough to learn this. Because you have so many other things coming at them. What's that thing coming out at nighttime? They got this, I don't know what this is. I know, but it's funny because they have something after 12 o'clock, some type of thing they have with women being half naked. Okay. I don't want to hear about that. I'm watching this. Right. So how do you combat that?
Can I say this?
Sure.
One of the things that I think we're quite naive, if we think for 1 minute that the Europeans, under the guise of the U.S. democracy foreign corporation that's registered in Delaware with a 501c3 religious organization coming from the Inquisitions, are going to let us teach these children these truths in the schools, that we got another thought coming. We keep building a bunch of churches, mosques, and synagogues, and a whole bunch of other things, but we will not build the institutions that set these things right. It is our responsibility. We've been knocked down, yes. We got to get. But let's not wait for a get-up program. Let's start getting up, taking responsibility for our condition, and start dealing with substantive knowledge and not emotions. And we're going to have to grow up and stop being boys and girls and getting mad because people call us boys and girls simply because we keep acting like it. We must take on the minds of adults of maturity and stop trying to be minors and minorities just because somebody branded us that, and begin to understand the difference. Have a greater respect for womanhood. Women, when they get into power, not to abuse that power, which is part of the fall. Understand yourself from a logical, intelligent perspective, and project things with love, and start using that room to teach your children from the door. Now, the press is one of the most powerful weapons, which is why the Christians spend so much time burning books. Therefore, if you've got information, you're going to have to do what? Put it in a book. It's not complex. You know, we keep leading our children to the Romans to teach them, and then start talking about their lack of self-esteem. You know, let's get real.
Right, so it's basically, in simple terms, it's like we have to stop giving our children away to the quote-unquote enemy or to the quote-unquote person who
against their forefathers,
and then we have to
burnt the books that made them dumb in the first place.
And we have to take ownership and versus, as you mentioned on the phone, rather complaining, we have to build our own institutions to educate our children so that we don't have to run in circles trying to like you said, reinvent the wheels. We'll establish what we need to establish.
A perfect example, don't invest your money with Madoff.
Say that one more time.
A perfect example, do not invest your money with Madoff.
Madoff?
He's in jail. He's in jail.
No, I'm just saying that.
What is
we
that?
keep
'Cause I don't
investing
know
our
what that
children in a system that has done nothing but destroy them.
Okay.
And wonder why there's fratricide and other things. And this is aside from the toothpaste and other issues. Let's get real with this.
This is something I want to touch on because we only have 5 minutes. I'm talking about the youth and their conditions today.
Yes.
Because with the gang violence, with the homosexuality, with the high dropout rates, with the prison rates, how do we connect this to? For clearly they're rejecting. How can we connect this to getting?
We must reassociate them because they're suffering from what is known psychologically as disassociation. They own nothing. They have no allegiance to principles. They have no moral, ethical principles based on the philosophies of their forefathers. When they get Afrocentric, they think of Kente cloth or the Ankh or saying Hotep or Ma'at. But the spirit of the knowledge is absent from them. We have to reintroduce them to the principles of their forefathers that they might turn their hearts and minds back to their forefathers because we are smitten and so is the earth for us following after the Romans and going to and fro the earth with the Romans, devouring nations. Now, we're going to have to go back to our own nationality in mind and heart to regain the lost estate. It's not complex. It's only been complicated by us dealing with emotions and belief when we need to start dealing with the facts. That's what our problem is. That's why when we first came here, I gave you the book and showed you right in the dictionary that we're Moors. That's the fact. You can use the same method to start raising those children. Once they have something to reattach themselves to, they will be self-inspired to learn. You won't have to sit there to keep goading them, but you've got to kill the disassociation problem that has been instituted by the Spanish Inquisition through the Pontifex and Intercatera Divina and the Christian Black Codes of 1724 and the Negro Acts, etc., and the falsity of the 14th Amendment.
Right. Ooh. You know what? I know coming studying at the Black National Theater and information that I'm gaining, I know from my process, this is a rude awakening. On the same end is very clear. And understanding this information and knowing this, I walk out clearer, and it brings me closer to what needs to be done. It brings me closer to like what's real and what's serious versus kind of walking asleep and being in an illusion. And all this to say, I know like when the youth get this, they're going to be powerful because this is, although we on darkness, the energy and the spirit is very powerful and it's so intense. And
because I know it is light. It is the opposite of darkness. It is allodial versus feudal, which is what we're living under now. We're living under feudal law under U.S. democracy, but the republic is representative of allodial principle, which is its opposite. We need to show them the distinction between color of law and de jure law, or the reality, i.e. illusion and truth.
We have like a minute and a half left. I want to just quickly touch on the King Alfred.
King Alfred is a military plan dealing with our rise as we become conscious of what, because they already know what they did, so logically they're going to have contingency plans. And so this is Executive Order 11490 of October 69. Executive Order was authorized October 69 to counteract people classified minority, black, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites in their rise from up under depression and powers that be, which they're in right now. But I want to read this particular part because our time is short, because I want you to recognize what a lot of people are not talking about.
Gotcha.
Preliminary memo, Department of Defense. This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put in the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage. The continent. So Is they from someplace else, or they bound to this continent by heritage?
If y'all want more, the music I have, y'all can go to the website to get more information about this. This is it. I want to thank Taj Tarik Bey. Thank you so much. Sabir Bey, thank you. All of the crew, thank you. You want more, you can go to tahirahshow.com, and if you want to email me, tahirah@AOL, there will be more to this. Thank you.